I've been out here this morning trying to get some more work done here in the shop, and I'll tell you what, it's a slow process. I'm making progress in some areas, but if you look at the shop as a whole, it might actually look worse than it did before I started. I'm not gonna work on organizing the shop all day long because I'm not a very organized person, and I think a lot of that is because I don't really like organizing. So rather than just trying to do this all at once, I'm just trying to take little bites out of it every day. And then hopefully after a little while, it'll be, well, I don't know about done, but it'll be better than it is now. So we'll get a little bit more done in here and then we'll see where the day takes us. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. A good example of how one thing leads to another, and I feel like I never get anything done, starts with this box here. It's full of drill bits, and this used to be attached to the stand that I had my old drill press on. So first I thought, well, I should take everything out of that little box and then I could organize it here in the red chest so that I'd have all my drill bits and hole saws organized and easy to find. But there's a problem with that. The drill press will eventually live in this corner of the shop, so it almost couldn't be further from where the red chest is over there. It doesn't make sense to just always be walking back and forth to get drill bits or whatever I need. And knowing me, I'd just start stashing stuff over here. So I really thought, well, it'd make a lot more sense if I had a box over here to put all that stuff. Don't mind the panting. Belly is following me around and she's hot. You need to go get a drink, I think. So that's where this old truck box comes in. I used to have this in the back of my truck before the one that I have now. And these are great for a couple of months until they start shaking themselves apart. So it works a lot better just sitting on a bench where it's not being subjected to vibration or shock loads or anything like that. But this would actually be perfect for organizing drill bits, hole saws, and things of that nature. So now I've either got to build a shelf over here to set that box on, or I was thinking I might be able to use the stand for the old drill press to put the box on. And then that way I would have it over here by where the drill press will go, and that'll just make things a lot better in the long run, but it doesn't really make things a lot better right now. I've got the stand here that the old drill press was on, and the more I look at it, the more I'm like, well, this would be perfect for that little toolbox, because if I don't put the toolbox on this, and I don't really have a use for it, so I probably just have to get rid of it. Plus, it's got this sweet paint job on it. We don't want that going to waste. Much like with everything I try to do, before I can do it, I've got to clean up a little, make room. Well, maybe about right there. Well, I mean, that's that. I'm not really crazy about it. It will be functional, but it does kind of just look thrown together. I'm trying to move away from doing things like that, but it will work. So eventually, what I plan to do is get this little shelving unit moved out of here, and then that's where the drill press will go. So we can start filling this up with drill bits right now. It might grow on me if I give it time. Thinking hole saws down here. Up here we'll just put stuff I have not yet opened. Some countersink bits. Then I got the big drawer here for sets. And then this drawer, I think we'll just do random loose bits, of which I have many. All right, enough of that for one day. It's getting too hot to work in the shop. We got some water to check on and a couple things to do over at the ranch, so let's run down and do it. Belly just loves to lay in that cool water. I'm told that's a shepherd thing, but I don't know why. Callie never does it. close. I know many of you have noticed that the ranch is situated pretty close to the railroad tracks over there. And yesterday we got quite a treat as the, I guess it was the largest steam engine in the world traveled down that railroad line. It was a pretty interesting thing to see, but I think it was even cooler to hear that train. It sounded very unique. And unfortunately, I actually didn't get that good of a look at it. I was too busy messing with my drone and my cameras trying to film it that it went right by and I didn't even really get to see it. To my surprise, every railroad crossing from where the train left to where it was going, I guess, was packed with cars, people parking there to get a glimpse at that train. I didn't think that it was that big of a deal, but apparently it was, so I thought I'd show you guys. Well, this check is done. I've just got those two over there that probably need another hour or so. But what's happening is you can kind of hopefully see the cow trails that are going across the checks here. Well, what happens is the cows all follow each other up to the water trough and they cut trails through these levees so that you've got these huge leaks where the water goes into the next check, doesn't stay where it's supposed to. So what I've been doing in an attempt to fight this is I put these little dams here to kind of block the water off, and they work pretty well, honestly, but I could probably use about 4 or 5 more of them. Since this check is done, I don't need the dams on it anymore, but I do need to move them over to the check next to it so that it doesn't just keep spilling into this one when it's already finished. What I really need to do this fall when the grass pretty much shuts down is come back and disc these levees down and re-pull them so that we can fill in all the pathways going across. And I know full well this is like the biggest downside to doing a more intensive rotational graze, is that it creates these trails because they're always having to trail back to get to water, which is totally understandable. But then we're left with all these trails going across the levees. So if I re-pull the levees, we'll be good for a little while. They will pull the trails again. Hopefully, you know, for the first year, there's only one main trail. They've got like 2 or 3 going through here now, which I'm not sure why that's necessary, but they decided that it was. Man, I had to get out of the sun for a minute and just sit here in the shade. It's 106 right now. We're on our way up to, I think, 110 or 111 today. And it's hot. Kind of got me thinking about how the cattle handle the heat. I think it's somewhere around like 83 or 85 degrees Fahrenheit is when you consider the cattle are in a stressful environment, and we're well beyond that today. And when you have beef cattle on pasture, it's not so much about what you do for them when it gets this hot, it's about what you provide for them. And I guess it probably won't come as much of a surprise that the 2 main things that they need are shade and water. The cows also have access to a drainage ditch down there at the end of the pasture, and once in a while on these hot days you will see a handful of them down there standing in that. But I think when it's really hot, you just can't beat the shade. I've had people ask, why don't I put some misters under the barn here so on these really hot days you could flip the misters on and help cool them down a little bit more. And the truth is, I actually did try that several years ago, and what I learned very quickly is that cattle do not like misters. In fact, I've put misters in my pig pen as well, and the pigs hated them too. So in this situation, the misters actually ended up doing more harm than good, because they prevented the cattle from getting in the shade at all, and they would just stand out in the sun because they didn't want to stand underneath them. What are you looking for? Well, you don't want to get in? Fast forward, it's the evening now. I don't really know what time it is exactly. I left my phone at home. I think it's 7:30 or so. And it is cooled down to a delightful 103. It actually doesn't feel near as bad as it did before, but it is still hot. I always wonder if I need to specify that I'm talking about Fahrenheit, but you guys know that I'm in America and we use Fahrenheit here. And I'm also pretty sure that 103 degrees Celsius would be fatal. We're heading back over to the ranch right now. I make my way real slow when it's hot like this so that the dogs aren't pressured to run any faster than what they feel comfortable with. And we make sure and we stop here at the ditch so that they can get in and cool off. You guys ready to keep going? I didn't quite get my mowing done out here. I've got 4 more checks, and my plan was to do those today and this evening, but what happened is the water was leaking through that levee, so now this is all wet here, and I don't want to drive the tractor through it. I mean, it's not that I'm afraid about getting stuck, that it's more I just don't want to tear the ground up or pack it down any more than it already is. So if I'm not down here to mow, then what am I doing here, you might be asking? Well, I got to get this tractor moved, because I am going to start the water here tonight. And before I do that, I've got to get some dams set on these levees, get some valves changed, and just get everything ready to go. I always reach down to feel, make sure we're right up against the ground. Sometimes you just give it everything you got, and you think you got it in there good, and you feel, and you got about an inch gap down there between the ground and the bottom of the blade or the dam, whatever you want to call it. 1 inch might not sound like much, but it'll let a lot of water go through. Oh, we definitely need one here. This last one here is going to be by far the hardest, because this ground is not wet and it's a lot harder. You really got to give it. I think we did it. Look at that. And just like there's so many things, tell the camera it's not going to work, and it'll work every time. Well, the sun's getting low, but I think we're all ready to go here. When the pump clicks on, I've got everything set the way I need it, and hopefully this water will be down by sometime late morning. Since I've got a little time before the sun dips behind the mountains, I want to walk through the cows here, just make sure everybody's looking good. It was awfully hot today, and the fact that they're all out here grazing now tells me that they're probably feeling fine, but still doesn't hurt to walk through them and check. Well, you guys made it, huh? When the weather's real hot like this, the cattle are smart about it. You'll see them go out and graze in the morning while it's a little bit cooler, and then from like late morning to early evening, they'll pretty much spend all day in the corral, in the shade, hiding from the sun. And it's around this time that it starts cooling down again. They all come back out into the pasture and get caught up on all that grazing that they missed out on during the day. Here's the guy everybody wanted to see. How you doing? In the last video about Buddy, there were some really neat comments on that video. I really enjoyed reading all the things you guys had to say, all the pasture pets of your own that you wanted to tell me about. It was very cool to know that you guys care that much about that old steer over there. And there's this guy. I don't think he'll let me pet him. Will ya? No? He's not into it. This guy will let me pet him though, I bet. If you got a tame bull like this, I suggest don't ever pet him or scratch him on the front of his forehead, because he might interpret that as a challenge and he might think that you're playing. But the way he plays and the way I play are not quite the same. Boy, everybody likes it up here, don't they? Oh yes. I guess you guys can't reach it right there. That's why you like it so much. Okay. You go get the cows, huh? Up here I see number 20 licking her calf. And the reason that I'm telling you about it is because this is the calf that was blind a few weeks ago. And I just kind of wanted to show you guys how she's doing now. She's got some scarring on her eyes that make her her eyes appear to be like a whiter, sort of milkier color. That's pretty normal after they have pink eye, but you can tell that she sees again, because just by the way she was reacting to me, I wasn't making any noise, but she definitely knew that I was not another cow coming to check her out. Everybody out in the pasture looks good, and that's not a huge surprise, because if they were feeling bad from the heat today, they probably wouldn't be out in the pasture grazing. I can see one up in the corral still with her calf, and if I can see one, there's a decent chance there's a couple more that I don't see. So let's run up there, see how everybody up in the corral is doing before we call it a day. Well, there is only one cow up in here, and I think it's old number 65, which is kind of in character for her. She's a bit of a loner. Often likes to hang out by herself for one reason or another. Well, no problems here, so I guess we'll call it a day. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.